For absolute reality to reveal itself, our categories of space-time experiences, our basic matrix through which we encounter the universe, must break down and then utterly collapse. I dealt with this breakdown in Martian Timeslip in terms of time. In Maze of Death there are endless parallel realities arranged spatially. In Flow My Tears, the policeman said the world of one character invades the world in general and shows that by world we mean nothing more or less than mind, the immanent mind which thinks, or rather dreams, our world. That dreamer, like the dreamer in Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, is stirring and about to come to consciousness. We are within that dream. These manifold dreams are about to fold into themselves, to disappear as dreams, to be replaced by the true landscape of the dreamer's reality. We will join him as he sees it once again, and is aware that he has been dreaming. In Brahmanism, we would say that a great cycle has ended and that Brahman stirs and wakes again, or that it falls asleep from being awake. In any case, the universe which we experience, which is an extension in space and time of its mind, is experiencing the typical dysfunctions that take place at the end of a cycle. You may say, if you prefer, reality is collapsing, it's all turning to chaos, or, with me, you may wish to say, I feel the dream, the dokos lifting, I feel Maya dissolving, I am waking up, he is waking up, I am the dreamer, we are all the dreamer. One thinks here of Arthur Clarke's overmind. Each of us is going to have to either affirm or deny the reality which is revealed when our ontological categories collapse. If you feel that chaos is closing in, that when the dream fades out, nothing will be left, or, worse, something dreadful will confront you, well, this is why the concept of the Day of Wrath persists. Many people have a deep intuition that when the dokos abruptly melts they're in for a hard time of it. Perhaps so. But I think that the visage revealed will be a smiling one, since spring usually beams down on creatures rather than blasting them with desiccating heat. There may, too, be malign forces in the universe which will be revealed by the removal of the veil, but I think about the fall of the political tyranny in the US in 1974, and it seems to me that the exposure to the light of day of that ugly cancer and its subsequent removal is the nature of high value in disclosure to sunlight. We may have to suffer such shocks as learning that during the Nakhtun Nabal, during the time of night and fog, our freedom, our rights, our property and even our lives were mutilated, deformed, stolen and destroyed by base creatures glutting themselves in spurious sanctuary down there at San Clemente and in Florida and all the other villas, but the shock of exposure was worse for their plans than it was for ours. Our plans called only for us to live with justice and truth and freedom. The former government of this country had arranged to live with cruel power of the most arrogant sort, while at the same time lying to us ceaselessly through all the channels of communication. Such is a good example of the healing power of sunlight, this power first to reveal and then to shrivel up the coarse plant of tyranny which had grown deep into the beating heart of a good people. That heart beats on now, more strongly than ever, although it was admittedly badly engulfed, but the cancer which had crawled through it, that cancer is gone. That black growth which shunned light, shunned truth, and destroyed anyone who told the truth, it shows what can flourish during the long winter of the human race. But that winter began to end in the vernal equinox of 1974. Sometimes I think that the dreamer began to press against the tyranny as he, the dreamer, woke us. Here in the United States he woke us to our condition, our awful peril. One of the best novels, and most important to understanding of the nature of our world, is Ursula Le Guin's The Lathe of Heaven, in which the dream universe is articulated in such a striking and compelling way that I hesitate to add any further explanation to it. It requires none. I do not think that either of us had read about Charles Tart's study of dreams when we wrote our several novels, but I have now, and I have read some of Robert E. Ornstein. he being the brain revolution person north of where I live, at Stanford University. From Ornstein's work it would appear that there is a possibility that we have two entirely separate brains, rather than one brain divided into two bilaterally equal hemispheres, that, in fact, whereas we have one body we have two minds. I refer to you the article by Joseph E. Bogan, The Other Side of the Brain, an Appositional Mind, published in Ornstein's collection The Nature of Human Consciousness. Bogan demonstrates that every now and then a researcher began to scent the possibility that we have two brains, two minds, but that only with modern brain mapping techniques and related studies has it been possible to demonstrate this. For example, in 1763 Jerome Gorb wrote, "I hope that you will believe Pythagoras and Plato, the wisest of the ancient philosophers, who, according to Cicero, divided the mind into two parts, one partaking of reason and the other devoid of it." Bogan's article contains concepts so fascinating as to cause me to wonder why we never realized that our so-called unconscious is not an unconscious at all but another consciousness, with which we have a tenuous relationship. It is this other mind or consciousness which dreams us at night. We are its audience as it binds us in its storytelling. We are little children spellbound. Which is why Lathe of Heaven may represent one of the basic great books of our civilization, especially since Ursula Le Guin, I'm sure, arrived at her formulation without knowledge of Ornstein's work and Bogan's extraordinary theory. What is involved here is that one brain receives exactly the same input as the other, through the various sense channels, but processes the information differently. Each brain works in its own unique way. The left is like a digital computer, the right much like an analog computer, working by comparing patterns. Processing the identical information, each may arrive at a totally different result, whereupon, since our personality is constructed in our left brain, if the right brain finds something vital which we to its left remain unaware of, it must communicate during sleep, during the dream. Hence, the dreamer who communicates to us so urgently in the night, it is located neurologically, evidently, in our right brain, which is the not I. But more than that, for instance, is the right brain as bergsome though perhaps a transducer of transformer for ultrasensory informational input beyond the purview of the left? We can't say as yet. I think, though, that the spell of Dokos is woven by our right brains plural. We as a species are prone to reside entirely within one hemisphere only, leaving the other to do what it must to protect us, and to protect the world.